Devdeep, we should start now.
Respected faculty members, dear students, and viewers from all parts of the country. First of all, a very good evening. On behalf of the organizing committee, I welcome you all to the webinar titled Understanding Who Am I by Maharaj Nityananda Giri Mahasaya, our spiritual mentor today and a master of the Kriya Yoga. During the rise of pandemic situation, the team of IQS Sishunath College has come up with a series of public lectures by eminent spiritual mentors from several parts of India, focusing spiritual and moral upliftment. As a part of the ongoing online value-added education certificate course organized by the IQS Sishunath College, we had Swamini Vimalananda in our previous session. I am Devdeep Dasgupta, a host for today's session, a faculty member from the Department of Microbiology. With the rise of pandemic situation in the world and the resulting confinement of individuals, especially the students, are forced to follow a daily ordeal while staying at home. In this stressful backlog, it is important for us to ascertain the basic questions such as the identity of our true self, the facilities that we use for our existence, and above all, the service that we offer back to the society we live. The term yoga essentially involves a group of physical, mental, and spiritual practices or disciplines that originated in ancient India. One of the active forms of yoga is Kriya Yoga, as depicted in the great Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. It is also a modern school, as described by the practitioners, and the ancient yoga system revived in the modern times in the late 1860s. The Kriya Yoga system consists of number of level of pranayama, mantra, and mudra based on the technique intended for rapidly accelerate spiritual development and engender a profound state of tranquility and self-communication or the search for who am I. So without any further delay, let us start today's session with a speech from our principal sir, Professor Indranil Kaur. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Devdeep. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Today, I am proud to feel that Surendranath College has been a pioneer in inciting the various inner outlook from the Indian ancient yoga and other mythological, or I should say, in practiced Kriya, whatever we have been doing. And through our lecture series, we try to make the students feel their own self in a different way. As we are passing through a very tiring and very difficult times of our century, it is really a this backdrop that we have been thinking about, and we have in Surendranath College, we have started with a course which gives an insight into the inner feeling of an individual. And with that, we have been inviting various people, practitioners in this field, and they have come up with various ideas and definitely have excited the feelings of our students in a very positive way. And I feel that understanding the necessity of this, I took up the opportunity and I spoke to one of my old acquaintance, Swami Nityananda Giri, whom I know for the last almost 40-45 years. In between, I was not in contact with him, but I know him as a very truthful person and a person with lot of zeal and lot of energy to make the people understand their own self. During his student days, he was really very good and a different type of person altogether when we have seen him. And later on, when I find him as the spiritual leader of this, or one of the spiritual leaders of this country, I feel people like him, when they go to this spiritual environment, definitely they have a goal, and I understand he has mastered the goal, and I know he has done it for a better tomorrow. And whatever I understand that he will be speaking today will definitely help us to know who am I, who I am. So without wasting much time, I request Swami Nityananda Giri to please take up the stage and speak to our audience.
Thank you, sir. That was really an inspiring note, and we got to understand about the speaker today a bit. So now I would like to request Professor Ashok Kumar Das from the Department of Physics to introduce today's speaker formally.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity for introducing today's speaker. Good evening, everybody. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce the speaker, respected Swami Nityananda Giri Maharaj Ji. Before doing that, I should say something on the relevance of this topic of discussion. Who am I? From the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. Those who have chosen the ongoing higher education certificate course already know that this topic is in our syllabus, and this can be exercised with the help of Mandukya Upanishad and Yoga Sutra of Patanjali as well. You see, we don't know our real identity. Who am I? Means identity crisis is a national disease. But Mandukya Upanishad clearly describes that every living individual consists of two things. One is empirical ego and other is metaphysical ego. Everybody has three different states of experiences in our life, namely waking state, dream state, and deep sleep state. In waking state, you see the consciousness, that is the metaphysical ego, is identified with your physical body, mind, intellect matrix as the instrument for different kinds of transactions with the waking world, and you are called waker. The very you are operating through the body, mind, intellect matrix. You are within this matrix, but yet you, the metaphysical ego, is different from that empirical ego identified with this matrix. Again, in dream state, your physical body, including all your sense organ for action, not functioning, but the internal organ mind functions, which creates an unreal world. And one point I should mention here is that the dreamer neither design his dream nor have any control on his dream. But interestingly, it happens inherently to the way the dreamer is. On the other hand, in case of deep sleep state, body, mind, intellect matrix does not function, but experiences only two things, ignorance and happiness. How does one know that he experiences this in deep sleep state? Well, after waking up, one says that I slept well, did not know anything, which means I experienced that I experienced nothing. Absence of experience itself is an experience which occurs in deep sleep state, which is called sushupti in terms of Vedanta. And to witness that a consciousness must be present there, which is same for all those three states, waking, dreaming, and sleeping. In the most profound depth of dreamless sleep, when the objective world is completely withdrawn from mental vision, and when every memory is dormant, latent, and does not work up a picture of outer world within, nothing but consciousness is left to itself. and the same condition is assured can be achieved in a state of profound self-meditation when consciousness is made to turn exclusively upon itself, and accordingly, 4 different paths are there to explore this soul into the waking state, namely Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and path of devotion or Bhakti Yoga. Today, we have got a speaker who will show one such path as shown in Yoga Sutra by great sage Patanjali, probably in the field of breath controlling belonging to Raj Yoga, often called Hangsha Sadhana. Our inhaling is named as Sha and exhaling is called as Hang, means Sho Hang. I am that very relative Atman which was experienced in deep sleep state, as expressed by Aruni to Shetaketu in Chandogya Upanishad in 9 times, that thou art Sha Atma Tattvamasi Shetaketu. After this, I am going to speak about some introduction part of today's speaker, respected Swami Nityananda Giri Maharaj. He was born in 1961 in a remote village in Balasore district of Odisha. His father was a school teacher and mother a devoted housewife, both living in religious lives as per tradition. Swamiji completed his postgraduate studies in zoology from Utkal University in 1983 and obtained his PhD in cytogenetics genotoxicity from Pollani University in 1990. He was engaged in teaching to postgraduate and undergraduate students of life sciences in Regional Institute of Education NCERT unit, Bhubaneswar, from 90 to 96. From 1997 to May 2002, he was serving in a DFID-funded health project in Odisha in health awareness services and health services management. In January 1994, he was initiated into Kriya Yoga meditation in the lineage of Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahadaya, and Sri Yukteswarji. He renounced all social and family obligations to become a sannyasi in June 2002 and living a monastic life at Rishikesh. He used to teach Kriya Yoga meditation in India and abroad. Without much delay, I now keep the platform to speaker, respected Swami Nityananda Giri Maharaj Ji. Over to you, Swamiji.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are completely audible.
Om Sahana Avatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinadhitamastu Ma Viddhisavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Professor Kaur, the organizers of this program, and other teachers of the Surendranath College, and all the participants. Today's topic given to me, who am I?
Excuse me, Swamiji, your
Yes.
video is off. Your video is off. You can please switch on the video.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, this question has always there in the human mind since the inception of the civilization, and that gave rise to philosophy. If we look into the history of civilizations, we find 2 countries. One is India and another is Greek, where there is the development of philosophy. But there is a big difference between the philosophies that developed in Greece and that is developed in this land called Bharat. I am not going into all those details because that will consume the time. Only in short, I will tell that when we read a philosophy, we have some answers. Like, who am I? Philosophy gives us answer. But is that an answer? That is the big question. Because I will say your consciousness, you are Atman, you are self, you are Jivatma. What does it mean? Just some words. And it does not mean anything. If it gives some information to your intellect. So our understanding remains at the level of intellect. And that is not knowledge, that is just information. The Western philosophies are what we call the Greek philosophy, their level is up to the intellect. Whereas Indian philosophies don't stop at the level of intellect. Because intellect is a product of the source that you are. And since it is a product of the source that you are, you can name it Atman, you can name it consciousness, you can name it anything. Or according to Buddhism, you can name it void, Sunya. But these are just words and some explanations. And that is not your knowledge. And since intellect is a product of the source, it cannot know. That is why intellect is to be silenced. You have to go beyond the intellect to know who you are, who I am. That is the big difference between Western philosophy and Indian philosophy, because Indian philosophy goes beyond the intellect. Now you read a philosophy, it is an intellectual exercise. Since it is an intellectual exercise, you know only at the level of intellect. That is just some informations. And the philosophies can be contradictory. Now these contradictory philosophies can fight against each other verbally, or we can make it a debate, but that will simply result in intellectual gymnastics. Now this intellectual gymnastics will not let us to the knowledge, state of knowledge. Because state of knowledge is to be known by experience, what we called embodied knowledge. In the word of Vedanta, we call aporoksha anubhuti. So that has to come. Until and unless that has not come to me, then that is not my knowledge. I can say this is the knowledge of Rishi Kapila, or this is the knowledge of Rishi Patanjali, or this is the knowledge of Gautama, this is the knowledge of Vyasa, or this is the knowledge of Krishna, or this is the knowledge of Vyasa. Because that is just the intellectual knowledge. And that is not my knowledge. That is to be achieved. That knowledge has to be my knowledge. That is the big difference between the Western religions and Indian religions. They are, a knowledge is revealed to a prophet. And the adherents has to believe. If you don't believe, then you are categorized as an infidel, a kafir, anything. But here in this country, you can question. You will see Parvati questioning Shiva. You will see Arjuna questioning Sri Krishna. You will see Dattatreya questioning Shiva. You will see Janaka questioning Ashtavakra. So here is a system of debate. You can question. You are free to reject it until and unless you have your own experience, experiential knowledge by living a life that is prescribed to achieve that knowledge. So when the question comes, who am I? There are intellectual answers that is given in philosophy. One can read it, one can get it. Most of you have read it, and you can also give a speech. Who am I? But do you really know? That is what yoga gives. Because yoga is a philosophy which does not go into the philosophical nitty-gritties of explanations. Rather, it gives you a set of practice by which you can know yourself. But since it is a talk, it will just be intellectual, because in a talk, we are using speech and intellect. Now let us discuss. Who am I? This question comes. Now suppose I will ask any of the participants, who are you? What you will say? You will tell your name. On further inquiry, you will tell your father's name, mother's name, name of the village, name of the state, name of the language you speak, name of your profession. So many things. But is that your identity? Yes, that is also your identity, but that is not your real identity. That is an identity imposed upon you. And to understand this identity, to understand that identity, first we have to understand this identity. Means to understand the metaphysical identity, that the real you are, you have to understand the apparent identity that presently you are going through. Now suppose I say who you just tell a name. A name is not identity. It is a name given by your parents at the time of your birth. Now you say I am this. Then this identity changes. Suppose you are in this class. Now you are a student of the value-added program, value-based program of the Surendranath College. So now at present, this is your identity. Or you are listening to me, you can say I am a listener. Now that is your identity. Now you got a call from your mother, your identity changes. You become the child of your mother. You connect to your friend, then you become a friend of your friend. You are happy, you are a happy person. You are unhappy, you are an unhappy person. You attach to your profession, then you are a doctor, you are a lecturer, you are a student, whatever it may be. So it means the apparent identity is changing at each moment. Then who the really you are? Now to understand this, we have to understand the body-mind complex. Your identity is presently with the body-mind complex. Now which body? At the time of your birth, maybe your mother has given birth to a baby who is just 8 pounds. Now where is that body? Now you are maybe 50 kilo in weight. So where that body has gone? Your body is changing at each moment. It has a birth, it has growth, it has changes, it has mutations, it has disease, it has old age, and ultimately it has death. Is that a body is you? Then you are an ever-changing phenomenon. But you as a person remains constant. Then the question comes, who am I then? Then people say that I am mind, I am intellect, I am ego. But which mind? Your mind is also goes through a series of changes. You have some set of ideas, maybe 10 years before. Now you may have completely discarded those ideas. Now with new ideas, or you have modified those ideas, or we have advanced and developed those ideas. So it is going through changes. Now then which mind you are? you are a constant. But to understand all this, you have to understand this apparent identity, that who you are at present. If you are listening now and your identity is a listener, what it is? It is nothing but a state of your mind. It is an activity of your mind. In the word, in a yogic word, we call it vritti. That means your identity is your vritti, the present vritti. You become sad, you become a sad person. That sadness is an activity of your mind. Since that is an activity of your mind, that is a vritti. Now you become a sad person. You become happy. Once you become happy, that is also activity of your mind. That is a vritti of your mind. So you become a happy person. You connect to your mother, you are your mother's child. That is a state of your mind, an activity of your mind. Now I am speaking in English and you are listening in English. So your knowledge system that is going on, the activity in your mind is in a system of language that is called English. Does that mean that you do not know your mother tongue Bengali? Now not a single word of your mother tongue Bengali is coming to you. But once you start with your friends and speaking Bengali, then entire set of English will go. That means your identity is always changing, and that is a superimposed one, and that is based on an activity of your mind, or we can say mind intellect complex. And you have an identity with that. That means finding I, me, and mine to your mind and intellect complex, that is called ego. So that is the prime work of the mind intellect complex. And all these in the yogi scriptures has been named as chitta. Normally people translate chitta as mind. I also, to describe, use the word mind because that is easier to communicate. But when I come into the idea of chitta, it is actually a combination of 4 different principles within us, we called Antakarana Chatushtaya. 4 internal instruments. That is mind, intellect, ego, and subconscious. So we have mental activities at 4 levels. At the level of mind, at the level of intellect, at the level of ego, and at the level of subconscious. We understand mind easily because that is the upper surface. That is the one where all our activities are going on. Now, on the basis of that activity, we identify ourselves. Then this identity is changing because the activities of mind are changing. At this moment, there is some activity of our mind, and at the next moment, there is some other activities, and at the next moment, there are some other activities. Depending upon the activities, our identity is changing, and we find ourselves with an identity. Means I am a sad person, I am a happy person, I am a English speaking person, I am a Bengali speaking person, I am a Bengali, I am a Bihari, I am a Tamil, I am a Gujarati, I am an Indian, I am a doctor, I am an engineer, I am a carpenter, I am a farmer, whatever it means. So all our apparent identities are nothing but an activity of our mind, and actually we call it activities of our chitta. Chitta vritti means mind, intellect, ego, and subconscious. So to understand the activities, we have to understand the activities at all these 4 stages. We understand, as I say, we understand the mind because it is the upper surface. Mind is a principle by which we take cognition of the things. Now I am speaking and you are listening and taking cognition of what I am speaking. It is on the basis of your cognition in mind. You listen through your ear. Ear is just a door. Then the sound goes to your brain and you understand in your mind. That means the real cogniting factor is not your ear, but the mind. Now that becomes a knowledge in your mind, which is an activity of your mind, and that is your breathing. Now you are a listener, that is your identity. The next moment that identity will change. So you understand that this mind is the first cognitive factor. Another explanation of we can give to our mind is that where the thought process is going on, a bunch of thoughts is presented. That means the inner faculty where thoughts are going on is the mind. That is also a correct definition. Both are correct. Then what is very important on the perspective of spiritualism is a definition of mind, that is Manastu Sankalpa Vikalpana Devi. Mind is verily that which makes result, which makes Sankalpa. I will do this. I will join this program. That is a Sankalpa you make. Without that, this work is not possible. Then the same mind makes a Vikalpa, an alternative to the Sankalpa. No. What is use in joining all these programs? Let us go to the party. My friends are coming. So you make a Vikalpa. So where all this Sankalpa and Vikalpa is going on is your mind, and that makes your personality what you are, depending upon these activities. So these are called monovritti, the activities of mind. But that mind is not the supreme. There is a more subtler factor in your internal institution, which is more subtler and more powerful than the mind, that is called buddhi, intellect. Intellect is subtler than mind and more powerful than mind, because that is the one, as the definition of buddhi has been given, is buddhi stu padartha adhyavasaya dharma. Buddhi decides the very nature of the object. Now you are listening. It is just a sound, some words. Who decides what is the nature of these words? What is the meaning of these words? That this is in English. This is about the philosophy. This is about the topic, who am I? This is about something related to yoga. Your intellect decides. And as the intellect decides, mind acts accordingly. Say, for example, now there is some changes in the temperature. Sensation through your skin goes to the mind. Mind recognizes it, but your intellect takes it. Oh, this is hot. Oh, this is cold. Accordingly, your mind creates craving for that sensation or aversion towards that sensation. So the one which is more powerful, because it decides, it takes the very nature, that is intellect. And that is your learning process. We called it Sanskaraja Buddhi. The intellect based on the learning. What you are today is based on your learning. You are learning from very birth. And gradually, no, this is red, this is white, this is black, this is yellow, this is hot, this is cold, this is good, this is bad, this is apple, this is mango, this is banana. All is your learning process. And all this learning process is fixing a tag, and then your mind creates likes and dislikes, and accordingly you behave. Then there is a third faculty that is called aham, I sense. Ego is a negative word. Since there is no proper word in English, people use the word ego. I sense, feeling of I, me, and mine. When intellect is there, simultaneously along with the intellect, there is a feeling of I, me, and mine to the intellect. Then from intellect, it transcends down to mind. Then from mind, it transcends down to your physical body. Then you say, oh, I am this, I am this, I am this. That is your present identity based on the activities of your intellect, the ego principle or the I sense principle, finding it attached as a sense of I, me, and mine. Now, there are activities at the level of I sense, there are activities at the level of intellect, there are activities at the level of mind. And all these activities are imprinted. That is your subconscious. That is also called a chitta, or for better understanding, we can call it abhacheta. And everything is stored. That is your storehouse. And you don't delete anything. Since you don't delete anything, you are keeping, you are keeping, you are keeping. It is just like a computer where you make a file, then another file, then another file, then another file, and never deleting any file, and then you are exploding. Everything is stored. And time to time, it comes up in the form of memory. Then, as the original sensation to that memory, if it was painful, now you become sad. If it was pleasurable, now you become happy. Maybe that event has happened to you before 25 years or before 30 years. So all these levels, monovritti, buddhivritti, ahamvritti, and avachetana vritti, all are called chitta vritti. The activities of the chitta. There is no such word in English to say what chitta is. Better to use the word chitta, or we can say greater mind. Now that vritti is your identity. Then how to come to the real identity? That becomes the main problem. Because I am always with the apparent identity or the imposed identity on me because of my mind, my intellect, my ego, and my subconsciousness. And how these are formed? These are formed for my 5 doors of sensation: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. So through these 5 sensations, I learn about the world, and then there are activities in mind, and those mind activities are stored. And according to those activities, I find myself as a rich man or a poor man or a happy man or an unhappy man or a very good learned person or a dull person, whatever you may say. Now my identities are nothing but activities of my chitta. In yogic words, we called it chitta vritti. Since there are chitta vrittis, we cannot reach into our real identity, who we are. I say you are consciousness, you are Chaitya Satta, you are Atman, you are Jivatma, all this becomes just words. We don't understand really what we are because we have to reach to that state. Now here is a peculiar thing. To know the world, we have the mind, intellect complex. Without a mind and intellect complex, we cannot know anything. Entire learning process is based on this mind intellect complex. And to help this mind intellect complex to learn, we have 5 sense organs: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. And all these are external. So we learn only the external things. We know the world. We are not able to know ourselves. That is the problem. But to know, we don't have any other instrument other than the mind intellect complex. Then if I have to know myself, I have to know with that complex only, because there is nothing else in human nature by which it can know. So how it will be possible? Because the very nature of mind intellect complex is a vritti. Since there is a vritti, that is my identity, and it is the nature of the mind and intellect to create a vritti, and then changing from one vritti to another vritti, then another vritti, then another vritti, then another vritti. So since there is a vritti, means activity of mind, I have a identity, and that is an identity given to me by my mind. That is not my real identity. To understand vritti, I will give you another very simple example. In ordinary sense, what we say vritti? Like the vritti of a teacher is to teach. The vritti of a carpenter is to make furniture. The vritti of a doctor to treat patients. The vritti of a farmer to do farming. That means vritti is something by which a person sustains. So here, vritti means the vritti is a thing by which your mind sustains, your intellect sustains, because they cannot remain without these vrittis. That is the very existence of the vritti. Suppose for a moment there was no thought in your mind, then you say, oh, my mind is blank. My mind was not there. Is it actually so that your mind was not there? No, your mind was there. The activity was not there. Since activities was not there, then you say, I don't have a mind. So mind is known by its activities. Intellect is known by its activities. Ego is known by identification with I, me, and mine. Subconscious is known with memory, storing, and all these activities are going on each moment within you and giving you an identity. So not possible to get a real identity. That is the problem. Number one. Number two problem, I don't have anything else other than the mind intellect complex to know myself. Then if I have to know, I have to know there. That is why in the second sutra of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, in the Samadhi Pada, the first chapter, Patanjali says, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. What is yoga? Yoga is Nirodha of Chitta Vritti. Yoga is Nirodha of Chitta Vritti. So we have to know yoga, to understand yoga, we have to understand what is Nirodha and what is Chitta Vritti. Rodha means something obstructed, something stopped. Nirodha means that obstruction should not be abrupt. That should be by going through a certain definite process. Say, for example, every day we go into deep sleep, Susupti. Then why you are not realizing yourself that I am the Atman, I am the consciousness, I am the Jivatma, I am the cell, I am Nitya, I am Suddha, I am Buddha. Why you are not understanding? In Susupti, vrittis are stopped. But you don't have a knowledge. That means you are not going through a definite process to stop your vrittis. That is happening automatically through Tamoguna, the qualities of sloth, the qualities of inertia. So you don't have a knowledge. You have to do the same process. How? With full awareness in awake state, in Jagrata. Then, if you are able to do that, what is happening in deep sleep, same thing you are able to do with full awareness, with full awaking state in Jagrata, then that will be Turiya, the state of consciousness. The difference is, the other thing happens in Tamo qualities, Tamas qualities, the qualities of sloth, the qualities of inertia, and this happens in Sattva quality, the qualities of knowledge. That is the difference between deep sleep and Samadhi. So you have Nirodha is doing that not abruptly. Rodha can happen abruptly. Nirodha is that you have to go through a definite process. To do what? To stop the chitta vrittis. The vrittis of chitta. I have already telling that vrittis are the activities. Activities of chitta means mind, intellect, ego, and subconscious. These four instruments. They are not separate watertight compartments. These are one principle called chitta. But based on the activities, we divide it into mind, intellect, ego, and subconscious. Now the activities at all the levels is to be stopped. Now, if the activity is stopped, then what happens then? You don't have identity. Because your identity is created by your vritti, and since vritti is not there, you don't have identity. Means you don't have a superimposed identity. You don't have a physical identity. You don't have a mental identity. You don't have an intellectual identity. But then you have your real identity. You have your metaphysical identity. That means to have that identity, who am I, you have to surpass, you have to overcome all these identities. For that, you have to stop all your vrittis. If you are able to stop all your vrittis, then whatever will remain, that is the real. Now Buddhist people call it Sunyam. There is nothing. It is void. Vedantic people call it Purnam. It is absolute. It is total. We can make arguments. We can debate over the ages. Since 2500 years, the debate is going on between Buddhists and Vedantic people. But that intellectual debate will not solve any of your problems. You become an adherent to a philosophy and you can debate, but you don't know. If you have to know, you have to achieve that state. Then you know it is Sunyam or Purnam, what it is. It is consciousness or something else. To know that, you have to stop all your vrittis. That is why you have to practice yoga. This is the definition of yoga. You can stretch your leg, you can bend your body and say, I am doing yoga. No, you are just doing one limb of yoga. That is posture. Yoga is to stop in a definite method all the activities, all the vrittis of your mind, intellect, ego, and subconscious. Since you stop, then only you will have your real identity, because you stop identifying yourself with any object of your mind or object of your intellect or object of your ego or any physical object. Now, for that, it is required that you stop the vrittis. You come to a state of no vritti, a vritti-less state. Then only it will be called yoga. Yoga, chitta vritti, nirodha. Then what will happen? On the third sutra, the answer is given. Tada drastu swarupe avasthana. Tada drastu. When you see that, means when you see that state of vritti nirodha within you, when you know that state of vritti nirodha within you, means you are not identifying with any superimposed identity of yours. And that is the state, swarupe avasthana. You reside in your own swarupa. You reside in your own form. That is the real you. Then you got the answer, who am I? Because you remain in your swarupa, your own form, your real identity. Means you have seized all the apparent identities, you have seized all the physical identities, you have seized all the identities of your mind, intellect complex, then whatever remains, that is your real identity. That is your Swarupa. You can call it Purnam, you can call it Sunyam. You can call it consciousness, you can call it eternal, you can call it pure, you can call it supreme knowledge, whatever the word you call. Previously, these are just words for you. A word, something to understand in your intellect. Now, this is not a word. This is an experience, an embodied knowledge, an anubhuti. Then you know who am I. So this is why yoga is just in the first, second and third sutra, Patanjali has explained who am I. What is your Swarupa? Your Swarupa is one. He is not going into any intellectual definitions. He is not giving you any intellectual knowledge. He is saying, you do this and you know. You stop all your vrittis of chitta, mind, intellect, ego, and subconscious. Then you come to a state, and in that state, you know your own Swarupa, who you are. Then that will be your knowledge, and then you will know. Otherwise, you read something, you listen to a lecture, you just have intellectual knowledge, and that is not your knowledge. You are not knowing who am I. You can give an intellectual definition, but yoga does not give you an intellectual definition. It just says, stop all the vrittis of your chitta. That is yoga, and that you have to do with a definite process, following a definite method that is explained in the second chapter, that is Sadhanapada. Then by that you stop all your vrittis. Since these vrittis are your identities, and these identities are stopped, then whatever remains, that state of vrittilessness, that state of no activity of your mind, intellect, ego, and subconscious complex, whatever remains, that is the real you. That is, we can, to give an intellectual explanation, we can call it pure consciousness. Because in English, when you say consciousness, if someone is a student of psychology, then their mind is intellect complex, that is consciousness. But in Vedic philosophies, mind, intellect are not chetana, not consciousness. They are jada, they are innate things. The real consciousness is the state when you achieve that. And that achievement has to come by your own practice. Then you have the answer. Then you don't look for an intellectual answer to understand who you are. Intellectual answers can help you just understanding in a mental faculty, but that will not give you a knowledge. So then only you get that who the real you are. That means yoga is not giving you a definite intellectual answer that you are this, you are this, you are this, you are this. No, it is saying you will stay in your own Swarupa, in your own form. That means you will know who you are when tadadrastu, you see that state, you experience that state of vritti nirodha, of your chitta. Otherwise, why you have to do that? Then he said, vritti sarupya vitaratta. At other times, when you are not in a state of yoga, not in samadhi, then your vritti becomes your own form. Like you are now listening, you are a listener. So your identity is a listener, is a vritti. You become sad, your identity of a sad person is a vritti. You are happy, your identity of a happy person. You are angry, your identity of a angry person. You are hungry, your identity as a hungry person is all your vritti. These are superimposed identities. So you have to stop all your superimposed identities, and that is possible only when you stop all the vrittis by following a definite process of practice. Then you come to know who you are. That is how yoga has been explained, and just in 2 sutras. First, on the second and third sutra, the 2 sutras, Rishi Patanjali has explained that who you are, without giving you a definition, without telling you who you are. He said, this is this. Your identity is due to British. That is a superimposed identity. You stop that identity, and then whatever remains is the real you. A Buddhist can call it Sunyam, a Vedanti can call it Purna. A yogi can call it Chiti Sakti, power of consciousness. Kaivalya Surupa, these are all words that is to be experienced, that is to be known, that is embodied knowledge, that is Aporoksha Anubhuti. You have to have that knowledge, because you can't know that by any other means. You can't know your own identity by any other means. Now that there are many misconceptions about yoga, people say over the ages it has propped up, because we are not going to the original sources. You are reading some new age books, and these new age books are written not for the purpose of knowledge. These new age books are written either for some professor to get a promotion, or one has to write some book, or one has to become some author, and they divide of the original teachings of the Shastras. Because a knowledge must come from a Rishi. Rishi means one spiritual practitioner who is reached to the state of knowledge where he or she has seen that particular knowledge in the Rishihood state. Then that has been written in the form of Upanishads, in the form of philosophies, that we call the Shastra. So since we leave the Shastras and write something else, like nowadays, people say many funny things about the understanding of yoga, because they don't have a proper understanding of yoga. They say yoga has to join body with mind, mind with intellect, this with that, because they don't have an understanding. Proper understanding is not there, because it is not based on Shastra. There are certain, one thing is to be clarified here. One common mistake people nowadays are doing is that people say yoga is to join. Why these things comes? Because yoga comes from the word use. The use has two different meanings. One meaning is yujir yoga, to join is yoga. But this definition is a mathematical definition. Because in mathematics we have yoga, we have viyoga, we have gunana, we have harana. Means addition is called yoga. So for the purpose of addition, this definition has been given. This is not a philosophical definition. Now, people with that definition, they go on saying you have to join. With whom? You have to join with your God. Then what is God? Where from that God comes? What that God does? I don't know. Then I create an imaginary thing called a God. He must have like this, like that, like that. And all is based on imagination. All is based on superimposition. You don't have to join anything with anything. Because as a consciousness, if you go into just simply the intellectual definition, you are one. Consciousness is oneness. There is no compartmentalization. That is Vedanta philosophy. Suppose you come to Sankhya. Sankhya does not say clearly. There can be many Purushas. So consciousness can be separate. Even if we accept that, then also there is no union. Because if there is separation, union is not possible. If there is union, then what union you will do? You are already joined. Like the space of this room is not separate from the total space. It is already joined. But you identify the space of this room is due to the boundaries of the walls, to the roof, to the floor. Then you say, I am like, this is the space of this room. But this space was existing Before the construction of this room, the space is existing now with this room, and this space will be there with the demolition of this room. And this space is always one with the total space. So what joining value will do? Similarly, the consciousness that we are, due to identity with intellect, the ego complex, the ego is been formed, and I say, I am this, I am this, I am this. That is ignorance. So, in actuality, there is no join. But there is also a proper definition of yoga, that is Juj Samadho. Samadhi is yoga. Why Samadhi is yoga? Because Samadhi is a state when all the activities of your mind, intellect, ego, and subconscious is stopped. That is Vritti Nirodha state. So yoga and Samadhi are synonymous. That means it is a state of, when we say in philosophy, the yoga means we are speaking about Samadhi. When we speak about Samadhi, we are speaking about yoga, means state of no vritti, of chitta. And once that is achieved, then you know who you are. So this is the how you can have your own knowledge of about knowing who am I. Otherwise, it will be intellectual knowledge. Intellectual knowledge is given in many scriptures because that is how the understanding of rishis. When you understand something in a vrittiless state, in a rishihood state, in a state of samadhi, but when you go on speaking to that, you have to speak with the intellect and speech, and then it will be different from person to person. So someone will speak it as sunyam and someone will speak it as purnam. Differences are bound to crop up. And then you become adherents of philosophy and you can make debates, you can fight also. That is the problem of the human ignorance, not human knowledge. So if you have to have, then you have to go through a definite system that has been prescribed to reach to the state of no vritti or vrittiless state, so that you can answer your own question, that who am I? You don't have to look into the answer of someone else. You don't have to look into the answer some prophet has given or some son of the God has given. No, you have to have your own knowledge. Then that is your knowledge. And once you have your own knowledge, then you know. Oh, your rishis has known, and you can also know. It is not that your rishis has known and you are not able to know. No, it is not like this. If Patanjali is able to know, if Vyasa is able to know, if Kapila is able to know, if Gautama is able to know, if Jaimini is able to know, if Krishna is able to know, I am also entitled to know. I am also entitled to have the knowledge. But for that, I have to go through a definite system of practice to train my mind to stop wandering, stop jumping from object to object, and stop creating identities. Once my mind stops creating all the identities, then I am there. I am with my real identity. Then the answer, who am I, is answered. The question, who am I, is answered. This is how, through the practice of yoga, here the practice means the actual practice is the three internal limbs of yoga: dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So by practice of dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, one will reach to that state, then he will know who am I. And to that, there are supporting 5 practices like yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, and pratyahara. These are external limbs. Now I can just practice one limb, that is some posture, and say, oh, I am doing yoga. Then you may be doing yoga, not yoga. Because very understanding of yoga is lost. and very understanding of who am I is distorted. It is to be known by your own experience from your own practice. Then you have that knowledge. I think the time is over. So if you want, I can continue to, or we can stop it here for question answers.
Yes. We have a couple of questions also. So first of all, thank you very much, sir, for giving such a profound lecture on the basic questions of like, who am I? Like how the mind is. We understood like how the mind is so strong, and our connections and our consciousness is such a integrated process with 4 different aspects like mind, intellect, ego, and subconscious mind. So how we understood like how our real self is actually different from the imposed or apparent self, and how we can control on our ego and other negative thoughts during this time of pandemic, essentially. So body and mind is a complex machine, as we all know, and we have to adjust as per our environment demand. So we have a couple of questions for you, sir, today, and I think we'll move directly to the first question. What are the difference between Atma and mind?
Atman and
Mind.
Atman
and
is
mind.
the Atman is the real you. That you have to understand what you are. Now there are 2 different views, 2 different how you understand the Atman. Atman means the self and the supreme self. The Paramatma is one. In reality, there is no difference. But Atman is, when we call it as Jivatma, it is the identity with the intellect principle. Means once intellect is there, if you go into the explanations of Sankhya philosophy, that there is Prakriti, and from Prakriti there is Mahatattva, the intellect principle. And then from Mahatattva, the intellect principle, the formation of ego principle, the I sense principle. So this is the process. That means once there is intellect, ultimate, it's like you are there will be a shadow if there is light. Similarly, once intellect principle is there, ego principle is formed automatically. That means identifying with the intellect as the self. Instead of identifying your real self, that is the consciousness you are, you identify with the intellect. And that is natural. That is the law of the nature. That is the law of the Prakriti. So you naturally identify yourself with the intellect principle without identifying yourself with the consciousness principle or the Purusha principle. So though you are Purusha principle, the pure consciousness, now you identify with the intellect. And that is called ignorance. That is called avidya. And it happens. That is svabhava. It happens naturally.
Right.
So that then from ego, the mind is created. So first Prakriti, mother nature, from mother nature to intellect principle, from intellect principle to ego principle, then from ego principle to mind.
Right.
So mind comes much below, but you are Purusha, completely above the Prakriti. So now your identity has come down from Purusha to the level of intellect, then you become ego, then you descend down to mind, then you descend down to body. Now you are identifying yourself in a body-mind complex. That is a natural process of nature.
Right.
Now we have to reverse that process. That is why in yoga we call it Mina Marga, the way of peace. We have seen that during the rainy season, that is the breeding time of fishes, fishes move upstream. That means water is flowing in one direction. That is the way of the nature, but fish is traveling in the reverse direction. So yogi has to travel in the reverse direction of the way of the nature. That is called a nibriti. So the way of nature is pravriti, and one has to travel in just opposite, that is nibriti. That means withdrawing the senses from the sense objects. Now, once you withdraw the senses from sense objects, then you will withdraw your mind from the senses, 5 sense organs. Then mind is such a thing, it needs some object to support it. It cannot remain without a support. It always wants some object. That is the nature of the mind. When you divide mind of all the objects,
Right, sir. Right, sir.
then
We
mind
have
has no other
another
way.
question, sir. We have another questions coming from the participant. Pranam Maharaj, I have a question to ask. Why is the ego of this sense I is growing day by day? It is often seen in both human society and social media.
It is growing because we allow it to grow. Now I identify with intellect, then with mind, then with body. It has an imprint that is called sanskar. This imprint is imprinted in my subconscious. Then, based on the imprint, again I create activities. Then, according to the activities, I have my results. And I enjoy those results in the form of pain and pleasure. So I am in this cycle. Further I do this, I create another imprint, I create another imprint, I create another imprint, I create another imprint. That means I am day by day, strengthening the imprint of I sense, the feeling of I, me, and mine to my body.
Right.
So that is called sanskara. So till this sanskara, once we are not creating a reverse sanskara.
Right.
That is why Patanjali is saying, once you reach to a state of samadhi, that is the first samadhi, that is Sabija samadhi, the samadhi with seeds, then what is the result? Because ultimately after the samadhi, you are the same person. You are again creating craving, you are again creating aversion, you are again in the ego. But the result is that you created a imprint in your chitta, which is counterproductive to your previous imprints. Until and unless you do that, you are strengthening that imprint of ego.
Right, sir. Right. So, right, sir. I think you have answered one of the most profound questions that can be answered in such a session. And I'll have one or two more questions. So we'll couple this together. Like, what is moksha, and how does it mean to be happy? I mean, he wants to understand like how does it mean to be happy, and what is exactly mean by moksha? If you can.
Moksha means cessation from, complete cessation from all the sufferings. Complete cessation. Here we are suffering. That is our problem. Our problem is not that whether there is some God or not, it is 4 hand or 6 hand or 10 hand. That is not our problem. Our problem is I am in this world and I am suffering. That is my basic problem, and that is the basic problem of everybody. We try to do various things, whatever we are doing, only to eradicate the sufferings. I think that I am suffering because I don't have money, so I am working to have money. Now I am a billionaire, but still I am suffering. Someone thinks if I have a son, I can get rid of suffering. Someone thinks if I win an election, become a minister, then there will be whatever we do, because to ward off the sufferings. And ultimately, we finally go deep into the sufferings, and sufferings. Now, moksha is complete cessation, completely getting free from all these sufferings. How it is possible? It is possible only when you have the knowledge of the self, that the real you are. Till you are identifying yourself with your body mind complex, with that identity, you will create cravings, you will create aversions. That will result in a series of desires. To fulfill those desires, you will do many works, karma. And those works will give you results, karma phala. And depending upon the result, the work that has been done, good or bad, you have good results or bad results, and you will enjoy them in the form of pain and pleasure. Now they have sanskara, then that will keep you rolling in the same format of desire, karma, karma phala, sanskara. Desire, karma, karma phala, and sanskar. The cycle is going on because the basic problem is the wrong identity, that I am this, I am this, I am this, which is a superimposed identity. When you know your real identity, then when you identify yourself with the pure consciousness that you are, then you are not creating any desire, because you are then fulfilled, you are complete. You are creating a desire because there is a sense of incompleteness in you, there is a sense of unfulfillment of you. When you are fulfilled, when you are complete, when you are purnam, when you know everything, even if you don't believe in the philosophy of Vedanta, you believe in the philosophy of Buddhism that you are Sunyam, still then you don't create a craving. Now you don't create a desire. For that, you have to knowledge of your own self.
Right, sir. Right. So we will be taking this one more question. I think it's from a student. Before that, I would like to request you all to kindly please submit the feedback form. The link is available in your chat box. And I'll go to the last question from a student. I think Swamiji, do we need a teacher? Great question. Do we need a teacher? Although we think better to use our mind.
We need a teacher.
Although
It is
we
like,
think better to use our
let
mind.
me explain this. Let me explain this. Nowadays, you have a GPS system in your car. So you on your GPS system, you can reach to a destination. When there is no GPS system, what you are doing? You are asking people to show the path.
Right.
Similarly, you need a pathfinder who is traveled in this path and can show you the path. But there are some people, very rare people, who don't need it. That is called, in the words of Patanjali, those who are Vidya Yogi or Prakriti Yogi. Means who has reached to the state of Samadhi, as if somebody has studied the Yoga Sutras, reached to the state of Samadhi, that is Ananda Samadhi or Asmita Samadhi, for them, and are not able to reach to the final Samadhi, that is Asampragyata, the final state of knowledge. If they are reborn, they don't need a teacher. For them, it is automatic. So if Ramana Maharshi doesn't need a teacher, or Aurobindo doesn't need a teacher, that doesn't mean that I doesn't need a teacher, because I am not in that state. So it depends upon at what state we are. And the majority of people are in such a state that they need a pathfinder. They need someone to show them the path.
Right. Right. So this almost bring to the end of our session today. Just before the day of great Yatra, we had Maharaj Nityananda Giri Mahashaya from the great land of Utkal, or previously known as Kalinga. And I also request you all to kindly fill up the feedback form. The link is in the second link. Kindly use the second link, which has been furnished in your chat box, and you can fill it up by, I think, tomorrow, if anybody can tell the time. Maybe tomorrow, 10 o'clock. Okay, so I think I would like to I'd like to request Professor Ashok Kumar Das to deliver the vote of thanks.
Am I audible?
Sir, Ashok Kumar Das.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
So, warm and blissful evening to all for your presence in this webinar. Who am I? You know that to give thanks to somebody is to express gratitude for having positive contribution from him, for which you become enriched. So it is a great opportunity for me to give vote of thanks for this webinar. First of all, I express gratitude to all of you for giving time, paying attention to make this webinar successful. I salute the Absolute, whose blessings leads us to the right direction and makes this a reality. On behalf of Surendranath College, I express deep gratitude to our honorable respected speaker, Swami Nityananda Giri Maharaj Ji, for sharing inner light on us from his long real life experience, which would definitely help one to explore his true identity as naturally experienced everybody in this sleep state. Thank you once again for your eloquent and inspiring speech, which has been recorded in our mind, and this can be used in future for experiencing Atman if anyone wants to do that. On behalf of myself as coordinator of Value Education course, I want to express gratitude to our principal sir, who actually was the source of constant motivation for arranging today's webinar. I am grateful to all faculties of our college for their constant support. I would like to thank the technical team members for their dedication in maintaining the online platform, due to which this type of webinar are being happened in this situation. Next, my deep affection to my beloved students for attending this webinar, and I hope you would be benefited from this and can be used for the development of your true personality. Thank you. Thank you once again, Samiji.